Okay, so a look at Middle-earth Shadow of War at 21:9. I've been extremely excited for this game after the absolute gem of the first game, and whilst I had my apprehensions before launch with the DLC issues and loot box negativity, I am so happy to be able to say that after playing it, I am loving it. But before we delve into this far larger sequel, let's break down the ultra-wide support. This isn't going to take long because this has even better support than Shadow of Mordor, that had pretty good 21:9 support, but had some stupid issue with tiny black bars on the sides that needed flawless widescreen to fix. Thankfully, no such issue persists here. Gameplay always shows off more on the sides of the screen during every moment, with no pop-in or lighting issues. The HUD scales to the sides of the screen beautifully, screen effects use the entire screen space, and yes, whilst they stretch, I wouldn't say it's very noticeable. The map also uses the entire screen space. Cutscenes, however, are unfortunately the majority of the time 16:9 with black bars because they're pre-rendered, and this is actually where a huge problem with the game exists. Due to the devs' decision to make the story moments pre-rendered cutscenes as opposed to in-game cutscenes, this not only breaks the immersion barrier because you suddenly go from your current in-game look to the standard loadout the pre-rendered cutscenes have been designed with, but you also see a sudden change in FPS, graphical quality, etc., not to mention black bars. This is very annoying, but what's probably going to annoy people the most is that these cutscenes are responsible for making the game such a huge download size, around 67 gigabytes. But that's not even all, because there is an option to download high resolution textures, and a 4K cinematics download too, which brings the download size to an eye-popping 100 gigabytes. Insane. One game, 100 gigs. Anyway, there are a few short 21:9 in-game cutscenes, but they aren't so much cutscenes, I suppose, and more just transitions during gameplay. Menus all use the entire screen space, just locking most menu elements to 16:9 and extending the background scene to fill the screen space. And finally, loading screens are black-barred 16:9 images. Performance-wise, we have brilliant news. There has been quality optimization across the board here. And by the way, I love being able to say this because at the start of the year, we had game after game of terrible performance optimization, so I love seeing quality development. Thank you, devs. So on a GTX 1080 Ti at 3440x1440, I can run ultra everything settings, and this includes the 4K cinematics download and the high resolution textures download as well, and stay above 80 FPS at every moment, usually in the 90s. FPS doesn't fluctuate much at all, and this gives a gorgeously smooth feel to gameplay. I love it. There are a wide-ranging number of graphics options to choose from, so you can certainly make it run well for your system. And now, I should note that when I started using the high-resolution textures download, I had started playing the game without the download, then went and installed it, I got a bit of FPS stuttering, just weirdly like it was finding it difficult to run, but the FPS was still in the 80s. Luckily, however, this didn't persist for more than 60 seconds, and I've not encountered the issue since, so I'm gonna put it down to just simply needing time to load in. And on this point, you don't need to restart the game to apply any graphic settings, which is a huge thumbs up. On general PC support, there is full keyboard and mouse and controller support and surround sound support. So gameplay wise, think of this as having a baseline that has just been built upon from Shadow of Mordor. The original game was not huge in scope, but got what it did extremely right, and this only improves on it. So you remain with the same three types of fighting styles: normal swordplay, stealth with your dagger, and ranged with your bow. However, now each weapon can be significantly upgraded, with different sword, dagger, and bow variants possible to receive when killing the more powerful enemy types, the mini-bosses basically. The higher level they are, the more likely you can get a weapon drop that has a higher level attached to it with better stats. So if you get, say, a level 9 sword, you can replace your current sword of, say, level 6, and that will just give you a lot more power. Standard gaming stuff. Other attributes may be part of that weapon too, such as better XP return on kills and so forth. The weapon upgrading and development is very good. It keeps you interested and frequently swapping out your current loadout for newer stuff, but not too often for it to be tedious. Cosmetically though, the game isn't massively deep. You won't really notice your character look changing that much as you swap in different equipment. Alongside your weapons are of course your epic abilities. There is now a much larger skill tree for each part of your character, like wraith abilities. So as you play, you get XP, which levels you up, and you receive skill points to spend how you like in the skill tree. This unlocks more abilities, and abilities actually each have their own 3 upgrade options attached to them as well, though you can only have one of these single sub upgrades to an ability active at any moment. Again, it's a superb progression from the first game, giving you so much more to work on to develop and strive to earn more XP so you can be more powerful. And you do get showered very nicely with XP, so that your rate of development is not too slow or fast, but keeps you at a steady, satisfying pace of unlocking new stuff. You always feel like you have something new to play with and try out, and it keeps gameplay fresh. The game not only is a brilliant Lord of the Rings game, but feels a lot like Assassin's Creed and the Batman Arkham series, and I mean this in a very good way. You have the deep, interesting lore of Lord of the Rings, combined with the movement and agility that we know and love from Assassin's Creed, and yet has the quality and style of combat from the Batman Arkham series. Your movement is extremely fast-paced. Certainly you can tell things have been turned up a notch since the first game. You can now activate a speed boost after doing nearly any action, which has you jetting around the map at hyperspeed. But it's a good thing. You don't have to move like this if you don't want to, but I loved it. I rarely felt like I was moving too slowly and was getting bored of running about thanks to this. Combat remains pretty much identical to the first game, but now you just have a lot more in terms of what you can do to kill enemies. You can mix and match all of your upgrades and skills to pull off perfectly satisfying kill streaks, and yeah, this is hands down some of the best combat you will ever encounter. It is snappy, fair, and most importantly, challenging. Far too often things are made so easy and enemies prove to be no challenge at all, but here I found myself getting smacked around and dying lots, and whilst this proved to be frustrating in the moment, it was only a good thing. It drove me to get better and want to continue instead of just getting bored and seeing no reason to enter a fight because I could just click 1 or 2 buttons and win with ease. Assassin's Creed, I'm looking at you. Now, the big selling point of this game, much like the first, is the nemesis system, and really this is very much like the first, but like the rest of the game, there is a lot more to it. There are more enemies and nemesis trees thanks to the world layout being sectioned into separate regions, and it's as fun as ever. I don't particularly want to be stuck into the nemesis system a lot, but I just like to delve into it every so often, and the game caters to this. You can utilize it as much or as little as you like. Just not using it will make things harder, but it won't force you to use it constantly. Enemies do have more dialogue now, they remember you like they used to, and comment on your past experiences and the like, but I can't deny they do talk a little bit too much. When you first get face to face and the camera zooms into them so they can taunt you, I found it lingering too long and just feeling like they should have shut up by now and just let us get to fighting, but that's a small point. The map is huge, far, far larger than Shadow of Mordor, and it is also divided out very differently. Now it's into regions, and each region is its own thing. You have to fast travel between each one instead of running between them, but on the whole, I like it. Each region has its own style and characteristics, and each is pretty large, with lots to explore with the usual hidden pickup items all around for you to pick up if you want to, so you can get more XP and access to superior equipment. But again, you're not forced into going around to pick up these items if you don't want to. There is also nice diversity in enemy types, with new kinds slowly being introduced as you progress. That said, there aren't enough. After a while you realise you've kind of met every type of enemy in the game, and whilst their actual difficulty will increase, I want more enemy types. Think Dark Souls variations. Each region, say, having its own diverse enemy types would make gameplay that much more interesting. An epic development in this game is the introduction of building up your own army. You can dominate orcs like normal, but after Act 2 things start to get mixed up, because now dominating orcs means you can add them to your ranks. Obviously dominating more powerful orcs means you have a stronger force, and you can use them to build up your own kind of nemesis looking system, but for good guys. It's a big part to the game that you need to manage throughout the middle and later parts of the game, and something completely new to the series, and it plays well. It gives you more depth to just dominating orcs to help fight in the moment briefly. There is now long-term gain to be had. A point to note, dying does matter a lot. When you die, time moves forwards, which can be helpful later on, but really most of the time it's a bad thing. It causes enemy orcs to progress up the ranks, level up, and generally get more difficult. Avoid dying. Luckily the game does give you lots of second chances in light of this to avoid that final blow of death. Of course, I must mention loot boxes. They are annoyingly a thing, but thankfully have no noticeable impact on the game. Don't ever buy one. There is no need. You get ample rewards playing normally, and at no point should you find yourself wanting to buy a loot box. Thankfully, the gameplay hasn't been made more grindy to incentivize you to use the boxes, they just sit there for those who want to buy them. But by you buying them, you're showing the devs that people will spend money on these terrible implementations of gambling into games and will continue to see them being introduced into more games, and that's really, really bad. I'll say it again, don't buy a loot box. The story is good enough, but nothing amazing. This is one area I would like improved. I still enjoyed it a lot, and really the main problem is Talion. He lacks an interesting character core. Everyone else is actually pretty interesting, but he, the key player in it all, is sadly a bit dull. That said, I'm still enjoying the story, and that's coming from someone who has very little interest in the Lord of the Rings movies. Now, one big frustration from the game is the lack of family sharing. For whatever reason, well, money obviously, it looks like Warner Bros. Has stopped the game from being able to use this amazing Steam feature, and so there is no way that you can share the game among family or friends. So just be aware of that. Anyway, I am loving this game. My apprehensions have been calmed, so I'm very happy to recommend it, and I'm going to give it a WAF score of 4. Just loading screens and cutscenes are pulling it back from being perfect, because the rest of the game is beautiful at 21:9. So I hope that gives you some information on how the game runs at 21:9. Give this video a like if you found it helpful, and subscribe for future info. For any of the games at 21:9, head over to my channel or the WAF website. Hopefully I've covered it. If I haven't, then leave a comment down below and I'll try and cover it. And if you'd like to support the channel, the links to my Patreon page are in the description, and Amazon affiliate links are there too. See you later.
Tooth and claw will cure.
Keeper of the world, Conan!
Who do you call to? Who is this? I take it this is also nature.
In all its fury,
Can you tell it to stop?
one does not reason with the wind.
Fire to forest, fire to trees. Your ash will feed. Die alone, we. Nature's tomb spanned sky and sea. We all die together. We burn with you, and return will we.
Time to signal Baranow's men.
Ah, the lovely smell of manfear. Nothing is sweeter. Together, we will crush their defenses and grind them to dust. Together, as captains and war chief united, we will have victory. Together, we take the city at dawn. Set them ablaze! Bogando!
Now is the time to strike.
You must be the fool who killed my bodyguards. You only delayed the inevitable. The blood of man-swine will flow into my belly today, and I'll drink yours first.
Me and the boys here are going to decorate our armor with your insides.
That's no more than you deserve! No more words! Beat him down! Like explosions! This'll turn you into paste!